Early on in this Serie A season, it's Immobile!
Only for you, Laziali all over the world.
Superb penalty! Sends the Olimpico wild, Lazio in front!
Vittorio Campanile.
Honestly, seeing what happened with the last captains of Lazio, I will give it to Djordjevic.
And Alistair McKenzie.
So I'm just kind of going to wait beside my phone for the rest of the week and see what happens. But I suppose officially I am a free agent in the football world. So
Are proud to present
Leaves Calabria on his backside. Oh, clever turn inside!
Lazio Lounge.
Ciro, the hero who burst Milan's bubble. A hat-trick for Immobile. Lazio nearly out of sight.
The best Lazio's podcast
Immobile
in
against
English.
Mustacchio. This time he picks the pass for Luis Alberto.
For you, every week after Lazio's match.
Lazio on fire in the rain.
Welcome back, Laziali. How's everything? Big victory against Verona. We are back. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me again, there's Alistair McKenzie. Hello, Alistair. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm absolutely delighted to hear our new revamped show. I mean, it's getting quite professional now, Vittorio, which I can't take any credit for whatsoever. But great work from your side.
Well, I thought it was full month. Now we're getting a little bit professional, and I thought we had to change a little bit things. What is good that it doesn't change, it's Lazio performance. I don't know if you agree. It could have been a tough match with all those injuries, but Lazio won comfortably, I think, today. So it was very positive.
Yeah, I mean, we said last week that playing Verona was probably the perfect fixture to be next on the list, given the injury problems that happened against Napoli, and it proved to be that way. It was although Verona have got off to a very bad start to the season, it was still a very good performance from Lazio, not only scoring 3 goals away from home, but keeping a clean sheet. So it's, these are the kind of games we need to be winning, and it's good that since that draw against Spal on the opening day, we've managed to do that and beat the teams we're expected to beat lower down the table, even with this makeshift defence.
We are changing a little bit the format with this episode. We're going to start with 30 seconds each, a point we want to discuss. Shall I start or do you want to start?
You do the honours.
Okay, I'll start. What I wanted to talk in these 30 seconds is Marusic. He didn't start very well the season, but I think this match of Verona could be the turning point. Not only for the penalty, not only for the goal he scored, but for the global performance he had. I thought it was the best match he had since he joined Lazio, and scoring probably will give the confidence he didn't have in the first matches. I think he's going to be very useful. Oops, my time is up.
Oh, this is probably harder than it sounds, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't have that much time to talk.
Okay, right. Well, me next then.
Go.
My man to talk about is quite an obvious one, Ciro Immobile. 11 goals in 8 games now, 8 and 6 in the league. Today he equalled Giuseppe Signori's record that he set in 92-93 of starting a season that well. This guy is absolutely dominating at the moment. He looks like he could be the kind of striker that can take Lazio on to great things. I dread to think what would happen without him, but I do wonder now how far can Lazio go with Immobile? A Scudetto? Will he become a captain? Will he take us far into Europe? I'm very optimistic.
Time is up. I thought, again, Ciro Immobile had a very good match today. The biggest question I thought was how would he perform without Milinkovic-Savic and without Keita, Felipe Anderson, etc. But it looks like even without this type of players, Ciro Immobile is still very, very dangerous. Today, Marusic played better and helped him, but the question is it Immobile that makes everybody near him plays better, or the other way around? We'll never know.
He's a superb striker because he finishes brilliantly, but he also links up very well. I mean, like you said there, he's very good at actually coming deep to get the ball and getting involved. He's not a striker who gets isolated very easily because he's so hungry to have the ball all the time that when he's not managing to get involved in a game, he'll always come deep and try and make it happen for himself. I mean, one stat I found today, which is kind of says it all really about his contribution to Lazio this season, is that he's the best player in Serie A this season in terms of combined goals and assists. So he's had 11 combined, 8 goals, 3 assists, which is ahead of Paulo Dybala, who's just behind him with 10. But that says it all. I mean, he set up Adam Marisic's goal today, but he's been superb. Like I say, just not only for his scoring, also his creativity, but also I think he's a real leader in this team now, and he really, I think his non-stop running and his never say die attitude, I think has rubbed off on the rest of this squad, and he's really setting a good example.
I agree, and he's terrific. Every time I see him play, I said, okay, he's tired. He's running all over the pitch, and still he has the energy to run and get all his chances. The second goal, the second goal was simply unbelievable. Again, there's everything there: determination, speed, skills, willing to score. That's Ciro Immobile, and this team needs him badly. But it's even true that Lazio brought back Immobile to the level he played once with Torino. So I think it's a perfect fit. And again, the question is it Inzaghi that is able to make everybody play better? Or if he's lucky to have all these good players all at once?
Well, I think the point you made was a very good one earlier about the fact that he didn't have Milinkovic-Savic with him today, and he's played phenomenally well alongside Felipe Anderson in the past and alongside Keita. So I think that is testament to what kind of a player Immobile has become, is that he's managing to continue this scoring run while everything behind him changes. And today, for example, a lot of Lazio's threat came from down the wings, whereas beforehand it's been mostly the problems caused by Luis Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic just on his shoulder. But today, like you said in your introduction, Adam Marisic had a very good game, playing very high up, as was Lukaku. Lukaku didn't have quite the same impact, but he was playing very high up the pitch, and Immobile is able to adapt to all these different circumstances, the different personnel changes behind him. He's been the one kind of ever-present positive force for Lazio so far this season. And I think that kind of adaptability is absolutely priceless for Inzaghi, given how many changes he's already having to make to this team.
Let's talk about the match of today.
I think you'd have to say after the initial opening 10 minutes of the game, they've deserved it. They've been the better side. They've looked the more dangerous. They've been getting in wide areas. Lulic, for some reason, finds himself on the right hand.
I was surprised to see the three-man defense. I don't know if you agree, Alistair, because with all those injuries, I thought maybe switching to four-man back would be a better option. But Felipe Luis played very, very well, and he was the central defender. That was a very good message for me. It's true that, and we said it before starting to record, that Verona is not a very scary team, but they still have Pazzini, that is a very experienced striker. Then in the second half, they risk everything, calling in Cerci and Keane. But to be honest, Lazio didn't struggle at all. They were very well in defense. And again, Patrick, first time playing this season in a position that wasn't his, and played really, really well.
Yeah, I think all three at the back today did very well. It is worth pointing out what you've just pointed out, which is that yes, Verona have got off to a terrible start to this season, but they do have some really experienced, talented players within their squad, even if they're not performing the way they should be. The guys you mentioned there all have the ability to cause problems to what was a fairly inexperienced defence. Felipe Luis, I think this was a really important game for him. We talked about that last week, the fact that having come under so much criticism for the way he played against Vitesse in the Europa League, it was very important for him to be able to actually respond to that with a good performance today, and I think he did that. He looked very calm. He looked very comfortable in that game, and that's almost for me the most important thing. That's something that Stefan de Vrij has done so well in that role, is just the kind of calmness and decision making he has, which I think in the centre of that three is a very important attribute. To answer the question you started with there, I wasn't too surprised to see a three-man defence. I did kind of expect it today, even with the injuries, just because of the turnover time between the Napoli game and this game. I didn't expect Inzaghi to change his entire strategy that he's been working on for so long. I think that could still happen, but I think it's more likely to happen on Thursday night against Zulte Waregem than it was to happen tonight. But it'll be very interesting to see if and when that happens, how he puts that defence together.
I think Patrick again was a big surprise. I think he played in that position when he was in Barcelona, but never at this level. And he played very, very well. And this, for me, tells you how much Inzaghi is under control of the players he has in the team, because Patrick didn't play a second and then comes in not his role, not his position, and plays really well. Of course, we said it already that Verona is not Napoli, but the performance they had was astonishing for me. So I really, really like what they did today. So I'm really impressed. And I think that was the turning point. The other thing of today was the position of Luis Alberto. I thought he played a little bit too far from Immobile, more near the line of the midfielders. So that created a little bit of problems for Lazio in attacking position, but Immobile fixed everything.
Yeah, a player I wanted to point out from today's match as well was actually Senad Lulic, who I've said before I've had doubts about that left wing back role being the right position for him, and I think today has made me even more assured with that opinion, because I thought playing in the midfield three, he just looks a lot more comfortable, and I think it suits his skill set a lot more. He never stops running, but his defensive work I feel has got a lot better this season. Actually, I think he's been a lot better defensively than he has done in the past. But he made a few very good runs forward, actually picking it up on the edge of the box, going kind of coast to coast to the other end of the pitch. Created some chances. I thought he looks a lot better in that midfield position than he does as a left wing back. I think the problem is that Lukaku hasn't taken the chances necessarily from the start in the way that we'd like, and it's making me start to wonder. I don't know what you think, Vittorio. It's probably still too early to cast a big judgment on this, but is Lukaku the kind of player who only really works as an impact substitution? His pace and his power, is that something that's going to work against tiring defences, but not necessarily from the start for 90 minutes? Because from what we've seen so far, he's not really had nearly the same impact from the start as he has from the bench.
That's absolutely true. The fact says that every time Lukaku started, he didn't perform as well as the time where he entered in the last 20 minutes. For sure, he takes advantage of the other team's tired after 70, 65 minutes of matches. But I think one of the problems today is that he's really good to go back the defender and put it in the middle. But today, especially in the first half, in the box there was only Immobile, who who scored with a header in the past, but it's not Milinkovic-Savic. And Luis Alberto was often going outside the box, so he couldn't use his best skill, that is the cross. But I still think he needs to find his better form, and he's going to be able to perform even at the beginning of a match, which I think is the options Lazio are looking for him. But we'll see. Maybe in Europe League he'll start again, probably, and see how things go. You talk about Lulic. I was a little bit surprised that Murgia didn't start, but I think Inzaghi thought to rest him today and make him play Thursday night in the Europe League match. So probably that's the reason.
Yeah, you'd expect to see him playing in that game. And it would be quite interesting as well, talking about Lukaku again, to see if it is a shift to a back four, how he performs in a back four. Talking about Marasic again, Marasic obviously had a phenomenal game today, got his first goal, won the penalty, set up another goal. And I still, I have no doubts over his ability as an attacking force. I think he was brilliant today, but the one warning I would say is that there's the doubts I've raised before about his defensive abilities. They haven't been taken away from today's performance. He's definitely a danger going forward, but I do think if we switch to a 4-3-3, I want to see Marasic in the front three on the right wing rather than in the back four as a right back.
I think as a lot of players that come from a different league, they have to learn Serie A, and that means most tactics-wise, Serie A, it's a very complicated league. So especially when you defend, you have to learn by heart all the movement you have to make. And I think that Marusic, like Lukaku, are not able to do the right movement all the time, at least at the moment. And that's why they struggle in the defense. But he's best suited for a 3-5-2, in my opinion, not as a left or right back. So I don't see him playing in that position, especially after the match of today. I think if Lazio will play with 4 defender next week or in Europe League, I think Patrick will have that spot instead of Marusic. But we have to see what Inzaghi thinks.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's also going to be quite interesting to see what kind of changes are made. I know we're going to get round to previewing the games, but I think given that, like we say, the Inzaghi has chosen to stick with the 3-man defence tonight, it'll be very interesting to see if he changes, given his dearth of options in defence, if he changes the shape and if he changes how much of the personnel he's going to alternate as well for the game on Thursday. It's another big week. An international break is coming up shortly, but Zulte Waregem at home should be the easiest of our Europa League games on paper. So anything less than a win there is going to be a disappointment. And then Sassuolo is another game like I mentioned about the one today, in that it's a team that Lazio have to be beating to hope to reach the top 4 this season. So it's a big week.
Absolutely. And talking about the match of today, Strakosha did an unbelievable save. Again, this keeper is growing match after match. I believe at the moment he's in the top 4 goalkeepers in Serie A. I don't see anybody making the saves he's making. And even if he's very young, he's not making that big mistakes like he did last year. He's surprising. Last year I thought he had a very good season, but this season he's even better. I mean, I'm really impressed, and having a very good keeper gives you a lot of points. So it's an added value and really change everything when you're thinking about reaching the Champions League spot with a good goalkeeper, that's going to help you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the notes I scribbled down while I was watching the game today was Strakosha deserves more credit, because I think he doesn't get nearly as much credit as he deserves. But from the saves that he's made, his record of clean sheets, considering the defensive changes around him as well, he's made a very good start to the season, and we have to remember that we shouldn't take that for granted, because the goalkeeper could have easily ended up as being a problem position this season. Yes, Strakosha was entrusted with a lot of first-team games last season, but we didn't really know for sure what kind of a player we were dealing with. His form could easily have dipped at the start of this year, and with Federico Marchetti frozen out of the team, that would cause a few problems. So I think we should be giving Strakosha more credit for the performances he's been putting in so far this season. And especially considering his youth, it's an extremely promising thing for Lazio. But then again, on the other hand, if he was getting the same praise that, say, Donnarumma has been, then you start to get linked with Manchester United and Real Madrid. So maybe it's a good thing, really, that nobody's paying any attention to Strakosha.
And we need to know what's happening with his contract, because Strakosha this summer said that he renewed with Lazio, but there were no official statement about this. So was that a mistake of Strakosha, or there's something else that Lazio don't want to tell us? Why they don't announce that they renew the contract of Strakosha?
I really, really hope we don't get back into this again.
Even because it's expiring at the end of this year. So do we have to get another Keita situation? I hope not.
Well, he doesn't strike me as a similar kind of character to Keita, which is one thing. But I mean, I think his contract's until 2019, is it not? Or is it end of this season?
Probably end of next season. So he has still 2 years.
As a young player and also as an Albania international now, it's definitely worth getting these guys tied down in the way that they've managed with Milinkovic-Savic, obviously, because if he continues this form for the rest of the season, it's going to be only a matter of time before offers start coming in. And if we get to the end of the season, Strakosha's had a superb campaign and everybody realises he's only got 1 year left in his deal, then we could end up with another ridiculous situation. But you would really, really hope that by now Lotito is capable of recognising the problems caused by not getting certainty over players' futures. So we'll see, but remain optimistic.
And I think Tare has a better relationship with Strakosha than with Keita, I believe.
Yeah, and Keita is a guy, I don't think it's ever been really a mystery that he wanted to play at the very top level, and having come through Barcelona's academy and so on, I think that's something that's been kind of ingrained in him from a very young age, whereas Strakosha, being a product of the Lazio youth system and so on, I think he perhaps has stronger links to the club and would be more willing to see it as a place that he can develop. Because it's not easy, especially as a goalkeeper. He's 22 years old. It's not easy to hold down a first-team position at a top club in a top European league. So I think moving to any club that you consider a step up is always a risky one for a goalkeeper, because if you lose your place, nobody's going to see from you at all. So I think he's best where he is, really.
Yeah, we'll see. This brings me to the new segment, Man of the Match.
Ciro, the hero who burst Milan's bubble.
The man of the match.
Hat-trick for Immobile. Lazio nearly out of sight.
I think this time is quite easy. I think we both agree that Ciro probably is the man of the match.
I love the kind of psychedelic 80s sci-fi voice. Yeah, I mean, his contribution today was superb again, like I was mentioning at the start. I do think it's definitely worth giving Adam Maricic a big special mention here because of his contribution as well, and also the fact that we've been saying, on this podcast before, we need Marasic to start performing in the way that we thought he might do from his pre-season form. So he was a real success today as well. But Immobile, another brilliant penalty, another fantastic finish, and another assist. So you can't look any further than him, really.
Yes, I think he had another unbelievable match. And the thing is, he's not a secret anymore. So it's not that the defenders doesn't know Immobile. And so they keep an eye on him, try to double mark him all the time. But he's very good. I wanted to give a mention instead to Luis Alberto, because today he made 3 tackles that was simply astonishing. And for a trequartista like him, you wouldn't expect to see those kind of things. Instead, he's proving to be a really good all-around midfielder who's able even to recover the ball, not only to play the ball. And that's really good. I'm a little bit concerned that today that when Immobile didn't come out, because we don't have a real sub for Ciro, and I'm always scared he gets too tired. But Inzaghi said that he felt that Ciro was still fine, and that's why he called Lucas Leiva. But yeah, that's my most scared thing when I talk about Ciro Immobile. He's always playing, he's always fighting. He needs to rest a little bit. Presumably he won't play Thursday, but you have to see what happens, because I thought the plan against Vitesse wasn't to call him in the second half, but things got bad, and when you need to score, then you call Immobile. So let's hope that he get a Thursday off.
Yeah, and he's not, he's not Dimitar Berbatov style strolling around the pitch kind of striker. I mean, he runs around like he's just been let out of a cage. He's pretty full on 100% when he's running. So it is a worry that he looks tired, and it's at the end of matches. But it's also, I think, the difficult position Inzaghi's in is that there's quite a few players he probably has to keep an eye on with that. Lucas Leiva is another obvious one, but Parolo, for example, is another guy who covers a hell of a lot of ground during matches, and he's a fantastic box-to-box midfielder. But given the fact that he's a bit older now as well, he's another player that won't be able to run that much and cover that much distance every 3 days for the whole season. So he might have to be, used quite carefully too. So, but I'm sure Inzaghi knows what he's doing in terms of what Immobile is capable of.
Yeah, and I think that there is Murgia that can replace Parolo. Of course, there are differences between the two, but Murgia can play in that position, while Caicedo still didn't prove me that he's a striker. He's more an assist man that can play very well with Immobile, but he still didn't score.
I can't remember who it was. I think it was Ibrahim El Betti got in touch with us this week suggesting that we play Felipe Caicedo as a centre-back. Which actually,
yeah, probably.
Considering his strength, it's probably not too bad an idea.
Again, today he entered and didn't play that bad. It's true that the match was over, but he's proving that he has something that could really be useful. And crossing finger, Inzaghi said that Nani could be ready for Thursday, not to start the match, but to come off the bench and play a little bit. That would be interesting to see, and to give more option there in front, where at the moment we don't have that much.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I was just getting distracted by another comment coming in on Twitter, which is good. But I'm not, I believe, allowed to read these out yet, so I'll let you continue, Rene.
Okay, shall we move to the preview of the next matches, or do you want to go on question time?
As you like.
You let me run the show today, yeah?
Yeah, you can do what you want.
Okay, I'm leaving. Bye.
I don't think anyone wants that.
Centre halves. It's a
The
good
preview
first
of the next
touch.
match.
Passes it into the corner. What a cool finish on an explosive night.
Okay, so next Thursday, Europe League, as you were saying, it should be the easiest match. But it's true that Lazio history tells us that every time there is a match that should be easy, it turns in a nightmare. Spal is the latest example. It's the only match Lazio didn't win this season after Napoli. So Inzaghi has to be careful. I think everybody expects a huge turnover of players, but what's the limit? How many starters should be playing next Thursday for you?
Well, it's a difficult question just because we don't really know what defines a starter at the moment because we have so few players. I think if I was Inzaghi, I'd be tempted to actually keep the defence from today as it is because it's done well and they probably will need another run at it against Sassuolo as well. So if anything, the temptation could be to change to a back four just to see how that works. But at the same time, with another game coming up on Sunday, it might be good to get the same guys working together to try and build on their performance from this evening. And I suppose the one concern there might be Stefan Radu because he's playing a lot of games. But then again, he won't be involved in the international break. So if they can get him through another two and then he gets a rest, then maybe it's okay. I'm not really sure what I expect. It's quite hard to say. I think Caicedo will probably start up front, giving Immobile a rest. I think Lukaku and Marusic will probably start. I think Di Gennaro we might see and Murgia in midfield. But other than that, it's anyone's guess.
Inzaghi said that there's a chance to see De Vrij playing next Sunday against Sassuolo, so he could give a break for Radu. I think, especially if Inzaghi opts again for the 3-5-2, well, those are the three defenders available at the moment. I think that there can't be any subs, even because Mauricio has been added in the list for the Serie A, but not for the Europe League, so he's out there. He cannot play on Thursday. He can play next Sunday against Sassuolo, but not on Europe League. I believe Caicedo will play instead of Immobile. The biggest question are in the midfield. Marusic and Lukaku probably will start. Maybe Lulic can play instead of one of the two. Murgia will start for sure. And then the question are, I think Di Gennaro as well will start. I think the biggest question is who will play near those two. Will it be Parolo? Will it be Lucas Leiva? Will it be again Lulic in a central position? Because after them, we don't have other option, I think. And again, will it be another start for Luis Alberto? I think he played all the matches at the moment, so maybe he should need a rest. But who plays?
Well, I think. Do you think this could be the first sight of Nani?
Well, Inzaghi said he won't start. He will come in, but won't start, because otherwise I was thinking that Luis Nani.
Because if that's the case, then I suppose if you're playing Luis Alberto and he's only playing for one half, for example, it's not too bad if he has 45 minutes rest during the game and Nani's capable of coming on for that length of time, then perhaps that's the best solution. Do you expect a change to the formation, though? I'm not convinced. I think it's quite likely to remain the same back three as today, to be honest.
I agree. I was thinking the last thing is could be Caicedo and Palombi playing forward, so to give a rest to Luis Alberto and Immobile. That could be another option.
I think it's hard to say what kind of importance Inzaghi's going to place on this game. I mean, Zilta, they're the kind of weakest team in this group, but Vitesse are another team that Lazio kind of expected to have a fairly easy time against, and we ended up needing our big players in that game. And Zoltar game, I've just had a quick look at how they've been doing in the league, and they're third in the league. They've won their last 3 games, including away to Ghent today, which is a decent result against a team that's played in European football. So I don't think it's a team that we can necessarily put out a training team or a B team against and expect to win the game. I think we're still going to need some of our big guys in there in order to get results.
Yes, I agree, but even Vitesse wasn't that bad team. They reached the cup final of the league. They were like 3rd or 4th. I think at the moment they were 2nd in the league, so they're probably one of the best football team in Netherlands at the moment. So it wasn't that easy match. Again, seeing the team today, maybe this opened a little bit the minds of Inzaghi and said, okay, I can make more subs play from the start this Thursday. Again, you have to find the right balance. That's never easy. But Palombi didn't play any seconds after Spal, so maybe he will have another go. And don't forget, there is Greco, who can only play in Europe League at the moment because he has been replaced in the Serie A list by Mauricio. So maybe he could be another option. He could play instead of Marusic or Lukaku. I don't know. I think Inzaghi wants to win this match because if you go 6 points, then it should be easier to qualify for the next stage of the Europe League. And even though it's not going to be easy, I think Lazio has the chance to go further in the cup. So I don't think they want to ruin it.
Yeah, and if Lazio have ambitions of going far in the Europa League, which hopefully they do, then this is a game that has to be won. Nice, who are going to be the main competition for winning this group, beat Zilta 5-1 away last time. So I think if Lazio want to do well in the Europa League, they need to focus on not just getting through this group, but actually winning this group in order to get the best draw possible for the next round. So it's, with injury problems and a packed calendar and the rest of it, it's quite easy to look at a game like this and say, let's rotate and give the B team a chance. But I'm a bit unsure that's such a good idea. I'm not sure. Going back to what you were saying about Palombi and Caicedo together, I think rather than two out and out strikers, it'd be quite good to see perhaps Nani alongside Caicedo in the second half, for example. I think that'd be quite an interesting combination of. He's a guy who can hold the ball up very well. We've seen that, and he's got brute strength, whereas Nani's more of a technical player, very creative player. So that could be quite an interesting combination. But just too many players out injured. So if Inzaghi finds a way of rotating this squad with the problems he's already got and getting results, it'll be a very impressive thing to do.
And let's not forget that next match is Sunday against Sassuolo, another very important match that Lazio have to win. So it's 3 o'clock on Sunday, so not much time to rest. It's true that Lazio is playing at home, which will help, but that's another important match that Lazio have to win. So I think Inzaghi will have to. In the decision he's going to make next Thursday, he will have to think about Sunday as well. So I can see a little bit of rotation there. And again, if Nani is able to play 45 minutes, then Luis Alberto could start with the idea that in the second half he goes off and Nani comes in, and that could be a good option. Don't know if Lucas Leiva can play as well.
I suppose another thing that is going to be a help and something that might encourage Inzaghi a bit is the thought that Stefan de Vrij and Milinkovic-Savic could be available again for that game on Sunday, which I suppose frees up a few options for him midweek in terms of who he can give more minutes to. That suddenly makes things look far more comfortable once you bring those two guys back into the team. They form the spine really of the team with Immobile, and if that spine can be put back in place, then the whole team looks a lot more comfortable as a result. So in terms of the injuries that we got last weekend, I think the fact that Basta and Bastos are the two who have ended up with the most serious problems is, stating the obvious here, but far better than if it had been a serious problem for either of the other two.
It looks like Tari said today before the match that De Vrij should be fit for Sunday if they're lucky. Milinkovic should be ready for Sassuolo. And after the break, Wallace should be back. And probably even Basta could be ready. Basta is the player who has the worst injury. It should take a month to have him back. But seeing Marusic and with Patrick, I think Lazio's covered there. So it looks like after the break, Lazio will have a decent squad. The biggest question is when is Felipe Anderson will be back? Probably after the break he will be able to play. He's now training to recover the condition he lost in this nearly 2 months that he didn't play.
Yeah, that's been the most frustrating one as well, because it wasn't like Bastos where he's gone off. Basta, for example, where he's gone off on a stretcher and it's serious. With Anderson, when he first got it, we didn't really expect him to have that serious a problem, and the recovery time just seems to have kept going up and up and up, and that added to the fact that he was playing very, very well before the injury has made it very difficult. But, with Lazio being able to start the season the way they have without him, you can only imagine how things might improve once he's back. This is actually one of the first questions we've got is about this, so I don't know if you want to move on to
let's
question time.
To them, and here's Klose, and Miroslav Klose!
Question.
Last kick of the game has in all likelihood ended 2.5 years of derby agony for Lazio.
Oh, I was at that game. That was the best day of my life.
Yeah, I thought to add that was cool.
Oh, what a night. I was hugging strange old men.
I know, I remember the feeling.
So thanks again to everyone who sent in questions. There's a fair few to get through. The first one was actually from Henrik Block, which came through Facebook, and he was asking about the status of injuries, which was what made me think of this. So we've kind of just talked about that, but Vittorio, I don't know if you want to break down in simple terms the kind of length we're looking for these guys being out.
So Milinkovic, Savic and De Vrij should be able to play, crossing fingers obviously, this Sunday against Sassuolo. Then after the break, Bastos and Wallace especially should be back, probably even Bastos, while Basta should be out for at least another month. Felipe Anderson is back from his injury. Now he has to recover the condition to be able to play. So don't know if this will take 1 week or 2 weeks. I don't think he's going to play with Sassuolo, but he will use this international break to get fit. So probably he will be able to play in the match afterwards. While Nani, Inzaghi said he's fit. He's recovered from his injury. He will play this Thursday, but he won't start. So don't expect him to play more than 45 minutes.
Yep. Next was Serge Alvarez. Actually, it wasn't a question, but he left a comment about Marusic, saying, now you can see what I was talking about Marusic. He had been in touch a week before. He can be very useful in attack when his back is covered. I think that sums it up quite well in terms of the chat that we've already had about Marusic tonight. But yeah, he was brilliant, particularly in attack today. Massimiliano Ciccone has been in touch saying, are the defence second lines up to the task? I think, Vittorio, it's probably just too soon to really be able to say. I mean, what we can say is it was a very encouraging start tonight in terms of keeping a clean sheet and restricting Verona's strikers to very, very few chances. So, in terms of the defensive reserves, I think one thing we can say for sure is that we've got lucky. We haven't got lucky about much, but the one thing we have got lucky about is that the games we've got while we've got this crisis are all fairly winnable games. So Luis Felipe, I think, was probably the most encouraging thing from today, just because we perhaps were, a bit unsure about him from his last game. But we'll have to wait and see how that develops.
Yes, I don't know if you noticed, but on the corners he was marking Pazzini, who should be the most dangerous player for Verona on that type of free kick. And at the beginning I was a little bit scared, saying you don't put the most inexperienced player in your team against the best player they have. But it turns out it was the right decision, and he made a couple of very good tackles. As we said, Verona is not Juventus, but the performance was really, really encouraging. And he's going to play again this Thursday, I believe, and it's going to be another important test. But Patrick as well was playing out of position. He played really, really well. The problem is, at the moment, we don't have too many options there. So even if they didn't prove they were up to it, they had to play.
Yeah, and sometimes positives can come out of these situations. Where players are accidentally forced into different roles and turn out to do quite well in them. And Patrick's a guy who's been very useful for his versatility already, but to be able to then use him in a back three, I think is going to work out quite well for him, because I don't think he would have been really considered for that role by Inzaghi before now. So if he manages to put in a few good performances there, while everybody else is out, then he actually puts himself in contention for the rest of the season. So we'll see. But it was a good start. I think we were probably all a bit fearful of how that would go today. But with not conceding any goals is as good as it could have gone. So good start. Next one, Ibrahim Albetti. Here he is, one of our most loyal question askers. Thanks again. Ciro is the best striker in Italy right now. Do you agree with me?
For sure, he's the best Italian striker. That's no doubt.
That's not the question, though.
Dybala probably still the best.
Dybala has... One thing I'd say about Dybala is he's perhaps not really a striker. More of a number 10. I think Dries Mertens as well. I think his goal last week got a bit overblown in terms of the reaction to it, but he's been in phenomenal form. I suppose he's the one guy who's outscoring Immobile as well. But yeah, I mean, there's some very good strikers in Serie A, but Immobile is definitely in the discussion. In terms of right now, he's definitely right up there. Dybala probably, you'd say, has more to his game in general, but this is a Lazio podcast, so we might as well say yes.
Absolutely, you're right. And to be honest,
no one's going to disagree with us. It's great.
And to be honest, Immobile is the striker that helps play more with the rest of the team. So that's a factor you have to take in account.
Yeah, he's the nicest guy in Italy. So next one, Greek Stav. This is a bit of a loaded question, I think. Who has been the incoming transfer of the season so far for Lazio, of the ones who've featured? Now, I have a feeling he might be wanting us to say Lucas Leiva here. And you'll be quite happy, because I think for me, he is. Although the one thing I will say here is that my incoming transfer of the season so far is probably actually Luis Alberto, because that is not the same player that we had last season. I know it's not actually a transfer and he doesn't count, but it feels like we've signed a new player, because his contribution this season has been absolutely phenomenal compared to what we were used to.
Honestly, last year it was his brother playing, not him.
Yeah.
Because he's completely different. It's not only how he's playing, it's how he moves. Every time he comes near and asks the ball, while last year he was more scared of getting the ball on his feet. This year he's asking all the time to have the ball. He's confident. He's a real playmaker now, and I think he's probably the best signing for Lazio. But as well, Lucas Leiva, he's so good, and he's really good. The biggest difference is he's really good in keep the balance of the team. A couple of times Radu went up, or Felipe Luis went up, and he immediately went in line with the other defenders. So he's an added value. I know Biglia is a different player, but probably Lazio needed more a player like Lucas Leiva, with his experience, with his skill, with his leadership as well. I think he's going to be a great signing. And the others, honestly, we didn't have enough time to see them. Marusic is the one that played more, but not enough.
Yeah, it kind of has to be. I mean, I think one of the best things you can say about Leiva is the fact of how quickly he's actually settled and how effortless he's made it look actually coming into this team, because usually new signings require a period of transition, whereas actually Lucas has been looking fairly assured and confident and showing all that experience that he's got from all those years at Liverpool. So I think he's definitely been the real signing of the summer. But like you say, we're probably going to start to see more of the other guys now out of necessity. Marusic obviously today played a big part, but we haven't had much of an opportunity yet. And that brings me on nicely to another question from Patrick Bowman, which is where was Nani? Is he injured again? Well, we kind of went over this already, but yes, he's still not fit, still not ready for 90 minutes. But the good news is we might finally be seeing him in the next few days.
Yep, he's going to play Thursday. This is what Inzaghi said, and we believe him.
There we go, case closed. Couple more. Another from Ibrahim Albeti here was, how will Lazio be? This is quite a good question, actually. How will Lazio be when we have Anderson and Nani and Luis Alberto and then ... 4-3-3? It's a good question because we've just given praise to Alberto there a second ago. Anderson has to be in the team when he comes back. Nani, we don't really know yet what shape he's in, what kind of impact he's going to make, but he is, I suppose, the kind of big showcase signing of the summer. But do you, Vittorio, there's not space in this team for all those players, really. There's space for two of them, but not three of them. So the same thing goes for a 4-3-3. There's still only space for two of them.
My opinion that have changed throughout this last month is that Inzaghi will keep playing 3-5-2, and his idea is to use them as match goes on. So especially knowing that they're going to be 3 matches every week, so he's going to have to change players in front. His idea probably is to make them come in. You start with Luis Alberto Immobile, and if things doesn't go well, then in the second half you switch and put Felipe Anderson and Nani in, or Caicedo, etc. And then on Thursday maybe Felipe Anderson and Caicedo start, and you change them, without forgetting that even Milinkovic Savic can play in Luis Alberto's position. So I think it's going to be more a sort of rotation during the match and during the week, especially a little bit like what's happening with Lukaku. He's entering in the last 15 minutes and changing the game. Imagine putting Felipe Anderson when it's 20 minutes to the end of the match. The players are going to be tired, and he's going to be very complicated to stop, especially when he starts running with the ball and you're tired. So I've seen I can imagine Inzaghi doing something like that, starting with Luis Alberto and Immobile and then changing and putting quality players to change the pace of the match and maybe deciding the match.
It's a good problem to have. We can say that for sure. I think one thing that'll be quite interesting from my perspective is if when these three players are all available, Luis Alberto, we start to see more in the kind of regista role that we saw him in pre-season. If Inzaghi plans to revert him back to being an option at that role to give Lucas more rest, and if we'll see him in that deeper position to allow Anderson and Nani to kind of compete further up the pitch for those positions. Because obviously most of this season we've seen Alberto playing on the shoulder of Immobile, but we also saw him in pre-season playing in that deep playmaker kind of role. So it'll be interesting to see if once everybody's fit, that's something Inzaghi returns to or not.
I think he can be an option.
Yeah, well, I think he kind of has to be as well, because we don't really have any other options at the moment in there, because there's Di Gennaro, but we haven't really seen enough of him to be able to really say that he's capable of stepping in if there's actually a real problem for Lucas. So yeah, I mean, Inzaghi's got options, and that's what he wants. He doesn't have many options at the moment, granted, but once everybody's fit, if that ever happens, we'll be in quite a good position, I think. The final question is a kind of admin question, I suppose, of sorts, from MMA Loader here, asking about getting tickets for games. So this might be useful for a number of listeners, I suppose. But he said, can we speak about the best way to attend Lazio Serie A games, how the fidelity card works, the tessera, and if the Roma away game is harder to get tickets for in November?
Yes.
Yes, much harder.
That's easy.
It's if you go to if you go to Rome to go to a normal Serie A game, it's incredibly easy to go to a game, because you can pick up tickets at a number of shops, some in the city centre and some out the Lazio official shop out near the stadium. The Tessera, I've never had one, Vittorio, so I mean I know it gives you access to getting tickets before everybody else, but
no, I think it's not a problem. It can be if you're going in a away match, but otherwise you don't need it. And yeah, absolutely. If you're going to a home match, it's going to be easy to find tickets. Of course, if you are hoping to get to Curva Nord, that's going to be much more complicated. But if you're happy just to get a ticket to see Lazio, then especially at home, it's going to be really, really easy. So don't worry. And you can book it even online.
But it's definitely worth trying to go and experience it from the Curva, because it's a phenomenal atmosphere. In terms of the Roma away game, the times I've managed to go has actually been through a friend managing to help me get tickets. So I don't really have any insider advice on the best way of doing that. It's the one thing I can say is that it's incredibly frustrating and annoying from a foreigner's perspective, trying to organise tickets to go and watch Lazio from a trip abroad. It's not particularly easily done, but if there's if you can make it to an away derby, if anything, I think it's even better, because you're outnumbered, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. But anyway, if you're a Lazio fan, go to the stadium, because the experience of watching a Lazio match from the Stadio Olimpico is simply unbelievable. The Stadio Flaminio is even better because it's smaller and you're really in the pitch, but they don't play there anymore. So the Olimpico atmosphere is still good enough.
Yeah, you can go to the Flaminio, but you might be waiting a while before you see Lazio.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's all our questions for this week, Vittorio.
Okay, so talk to you next Sunday, Alistair. No.
Yes, after. Oh no, you won't actually.
Yeah, you're always busy.
Yeah, sorry, I am going to be absent. Injury crisis. Mackenzie is ruled out of the next match. But
again,
I've got this recurring knee injury, you see. But I will be back after that once we've had 3 consecutive wins, which will be... the last time I was absent, we beat Milan 4-1. So, you should be really celebrating these moments.
it's better without you, yeah.
Lazio, no.
At least you're not joining because you didn't like the jingle, right?
I love the jingle, and the jingle's making me very sad that I'm not going to be here next week. But yeah, fantastic stuff.
Okay, we have the last one. Thank you, Alistair, and thank everybody for hearing our podcast. See you next Sunday.
See you next time.
And there it is. It's Lazio's moment.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. Remember, you can follow Lazio Lounge on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spreaker and YouTube. And always, Forza Lazio.
I'll tell you what, Lazio will be drinking copiously